Hi everyone, it's Jennifer from Fiberflux. In this video, I will show you how to knit the Tweedy Eyelet Scarf. This is a very easy scarf and it's great if you're learning how to knit or you'd like to brush up on your knitting skills. And for this project, you'll need 1 to 2 skeins of Lion Brand's tweed stripes. And you'll need 1 skein if you would like a shorter scarf, 2 skeins if you would like a longer scarf. And you'll also need a pair of 8mm US 11 knitting needles. You also need a pair of scissors and a tapestry needle. So let's get started. We're going to begin our scarf by casting on. I'm going to be using the long tail cast on. If you have a preferred method of casting on, please feel free to do that. To begin our scarf with the long tail cast on, you're going to measure out a length of yarn, not necessarily with a ruler, but just a long piece. And then we're going to put a slip knot on our needle. To make a slip knot, wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop. Bring the yarn behind the loop and then reach in with your knitting needle, bring up the loop and tighten. So that will be our first stitch. Then you're going to hold the yarn like this, come in through the middle, hold the bottom with your fingers, come up from the bottom, around and through. That's 2, 3, 4. And I wanted to mention, to master the long tail cast on, I also have a video which goes into this in greater detail. So be sure and check out that video as well. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So we've cast on 20 stitches to begin our scarf. So you have this tail and you'll put that aside. We'll weave that in at the end. Okay, so let's get started with row 1. For row 1, it's a very easy row. You're just going to knit all the stitches. To do the knit stitch, insert the needle into the first stitch, up under that other needle, wrap the yarn around the bottom needle and bring it through and push it off. Okay, so we're just going to knit all of the stitches on this row all the way to the end. Again, this is a very easy scarf. It's a great beginner scarf. If you also would like to learn different techniques such as casting on, binding off, the knit stitch, the yarn over stitch, and the knit 2 together stitch. If you're not a fan of purling, which some people are not, this has no purl stitches. Okay, so we're just knitting to the end of the row. Some more yarn. And if you need to push these back, that's fine too. Okay, so we're coming up to the end of the row. We're just knitting all of the stitches all the way across. So as you can see, row 1 is complete. To move on to row 2, we're just going to be repeating row 1. In fact, the first couple of rows will be doing the same thing. So for row 2, we're just going to knit all the stitches all the way across. To the end. And this yarn, I wanted to also mention, this yarn comes in a lot of different pretty colors. This one is kind of a mixture of blues, purples, and greens. And the variegated yarn, even though it's a simple stitch sequence, the variegated yarn makes a very interesting looking scarf, as it has a little bit of a multicolored twist, and it also changes colors as you work rows. Okay, so we're coming up to the end of row 2, and again we've just knit all the stitches on this row as well. So when you knit all the stitches of a row, you get something called garter stitch, and that has these little ridges that we're developing here. So for row 3, we're also going to knit all the stitches on the row. So just go ahead and knit all the stitches on the row. All the way to the end. And as we're going through these rows, you can really see why this is a great beginner pattern, and it will help you master the knit stitch if you're just learning how to do that stitch. And another thing, if you are a beginner knitter, it's helpful to do stitches over and over and over again to master them and really get the hang of them. And as you knit longer, your speed will come. So just focus on accuracy and neatness in the beginning. Okay, so row 3 is complete, and I like to kind of come in and straighten everything out a little bit as I work each row. So next we're going to work row 4, and row 4 is worked the same way. So the first 4 rows, you're going to be knitting all of the stitches. So we're just going to do that. Just go through each stitch. And you can already see some of the variegated changes starting to occur in our project. Okay, we're coming up to the end of row 4. So let's move on to row 5. We're going to begin row 5. If you look at the photo at the beginning of this video, row 5 is our eyelet row. So all those decorative little holes is row 5. So to begin this row, we're going to just knit the first 2 stitches. That's 1 and 2. Then we're going to yarn over. Just simply wrap it around your right needle, and then we'll knit 2 stitches together. To knit 2 together, you're going to insert the needle into 2 stitches, the next 2 stitches that you come to, just like that, and then knit it as you normally would. So we're just going to continue this yarn over, knit 2 together sequence until we get to the last 2 stitches of our row. So yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together. Sometimes getting the needle into those 2 stitches at once can be a little bit tight. You can just kind of wiggle it in there if you need to. So that was yarn over, knit 2 together again. Again, we're doing this to the end of the row. Yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, and knit 2 together. So we've come to the last 2 stitches of row 5. If you need to push this back a little bit to straighten it out. Then we're just going to knit the last 2 stitches on our row. This will create a little bit of an edge for row 5. Okay, so row 5 is complete. So you can already kind of see those decorative holes happening. So what you're going to do to finish your scarf, you're just going to repeat rows 1 through 5 until your scarf is as long as you'd like it to be. For the scarf at the beginning of the video, I used 2 skeins of the Lion brand tweed stripes. And that gave a nice, comfortable length from hip around the neck to the other hip. And when you're finished, when you're coming up to the end of your scarf, you're going to end on row 4. You're not going to end on row 5 because you'll have this eyelet kind of at the edge. So you'll have another thick garter stitch edge to finish it off, similar to when we began. So I'm going to knit a few rows just to kind of reveal these decorative holes to you a little bit more. So again, we're going to be repeating rows 1 through 5 to finish our scarf, ending on row 4. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a few more rows just to show you these decorative holes, and we'll rejoin in just a moment. So I worked a few more rows just to reveal to you these eyelets. And they're really pretty and they're super easy to do. So once you've repeated rows 1 through 5 until your scarf is the desired length, you'll end on row 4, like I mentioned before, and then you'll want to bind off. I'm going to show you how to do a basic bind off. Again, if you have a preferred method of binding off, feel free to do that. So what you'll do is you'll knit 1 stitch, you'll knit another stitch, and then you'll reach back with your needle and lift it up and over and off, just like that. So just keep doing that. Knit a stitch, lift it up, over, and off. Knit a stitch, lift it up, over, and off. And just do this all the way across until you get to the very end of the row. Just like that. Okay, so we'll rejoin in a moment when we've finished, and you can already see it emerging from the needle. So we're just coming up to the end, and I only have 2 stitches left. So just knit that last one, lift up, over, and off. You'll then be left with 1 stitch. So just take your scissors, break the yarn, then you can kind of lift that up a little bit, and then just pass this through the loop and pull to tighten. So obviously yours will be longer than this, but that's how you bind off. Now when you're finished, you'll have 2 tails, one from when you started and one from when you finished. So just thread your tapestry needle, just like that. Take your tail and go in one direction, come back in the other direction, just like that. And then you'll take your scissors again and just trim that off. And if you need to kind of straighten it out a little bit. So that is how you knit the Tweedy Eyelet Scarf. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the red subscribe button to get all the latest Fiberflux video updates. Thanks again.